Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Retirement is a gift. It really is. I knew that it was going to be great, but I had no idea that it was going to be this good. Escaping the daily grind and having my life to myself is simply beyond words. I feel very fortunate and blessed to be retired. I'm very grateful that I was able to retire because I think that everybody deserves a shot at this, and I wish everyone could experience the retirement life. I love the slower pace of life. Every day for me is a write my own adventure. And so today I'd like to share with you 4 reasons why I like not having to work any longer. Number 1, and let me begin by stating the obvious. Number 1, I have no more work-related anything. Nothing related to work. I like not working. I like not working full time. I like not working for the man or for anyone else. I like not having to deal with anything that was related to my former work life. I don't miss having to play nice to toxic coworkers. And after working for most of my life, I finally had just had enough. Let me illustrate it this way. I got married in my early 20s, and then I retired about 40 years later in my early 60s. So that's a 40-year work span right there. And everything between getting married in my early 20s and retiring in my early 60s represents all of my working years, or most of them. And there is nothing in that 40-year work span that even compares to living a retirement life and not having to work anymore just to make ends meet. Not even close. There's no awards, achievements, successes, medals, diplomas, degrees, or even recognition from my working peers that even compares to not having to work any longer. Getting married and raising a family is the greatest thing that I've ever done or accomplished. But the second greatest thing that I've ever experienced is not having to work for a living anymore. In other words, being retired. Nothing in that 40-year span even compares. I like not having to deal with anything work-related. Number 2, a second reason I like not having to work anymore is because I was just, to put it blunt, I was burned out. For the last 15 years or so that I was working, I worked long hours and weekends, days when I should have been off, and as a result, I ended up missing too many family events. I still showed up to work and gave it my best, but I was shutting down on the inside. I was in survival mode, and work really began to do a number on me. In fact, I was just burned out and done. I had the kind of fatigue that sleep couldn't fix. You probably know what I'm talking about, and if you do, leave me a comment down below. I would go to bed at night completely exhausted and burned out, and then I would wake up the next morning just as exhausted as I was the night before when I went to bed. And I would just drag into work tired and fatigued. I was walking around with what felt like a low-grade fever all the time, maybe something like the walking flu. And it was because I was completely burned out and dying on the inside. I began experiencing burnout when I was in my 50s. That's when it started happening to me. I mean, it really began to pile up on me. All of those years of work and stress and deadlines, not having enough personal time, dealing with toxic people on the job, all of that stuff really began to stack up on me. And you probably know what I'm talking about. And I almost had a complete meltdown, or I wouldn't say I was close to a nervous breakdown, but maybe I was. But I can tell you, I was very close to having a complete meltdown. And I had all the classic symptoms of a meltdown or even a nervous breakdown. But you know what? I retired And very quickly after retiring, that fog began to lift off of me, and my life began to be transformed. It was like being released from prison, although that may be over dramatic. But it really was like being released from a cage and stepping into a life of freedom. And it wasn't just getting away from work. It was what work had done to me after 45 years. I mean, it had just stacked up and was wearing me down. And I was completely burned out. And so that is the second reason why I like not having to work anymore. Number three, a third reason I like not having to work anymore is because I like who I am becoming in retirement. Now, getting off of the hamster wheel and escaping the rat race and living my own life for myself has been very, very good for me. I've been retired about 3 years and 9 months, and I'll bump into people from time to time, and they will say to me, Ronnie, you look like you've changed, or something looks different about you, or you look like you're happy, or you color has come back to your face. And that's because I am different. I have changed. I think I'm beginning to soften up a little bit. I'm not so hard in my emotions anymore, and I don't have that frown and etch and deeply etched in my face any longer. I'm not stressed out or under pressure, and I'm not on a timetable, and I no longer feel rushed. I feel no need to prove myself or justify my decisions or my actions. Life is gentler for me now, and so am I. I'm a lot gentler right now. And you know what? I like that about myself. After I retired, it took a few weeks for the stress and anxiety began to lift, but eventually it just disappeared. It really did. And then after a few months, it was all completely gone. Now that I've been retired for almost 4 years, it's been 3 years and 9 months, every bit of that stuff in the past seems like a thing of the past, a distant memory. The toxic environment, the pressure, the stress, missing out on family time together, all of those things that used to worry me and cause me anxiety, it's all a distant memory right now. It's fading into the background because I've got enough gap between me leaving work and where I am right now, almost 4 years. And I'm becoming a different person. It's been good to me. And as I look forward this way, out into my future, I just visualize and see nothing but goodness out there ahead of me. All of this has helped me turn into a better version of myself. And that's another reason why I like not having to work anymore. And then number four, a fourth reason I like not having to work any longer is I now have 10 to 12 extra hours a day of personal time. Let me say that again. I now have 10 to 12 extra hours per day of personal time. Now, when you're working, about 10 or 12 hours a day is devoted to your job or your employer, not yourself. For instance, follow along with me here. Let's say you work 8 hours a day. Okay, that's 8 hours. Then you get an hour for lunch. That's 9 hours. And let's suppose you have an hour commute to work and an hour commute coming home. That's now 11 hours. So you now have 10 or 12 hours a day tied up in work at least 5 days out of the week. That's a half a day that is not yours. It's devoted to somebody else. On top of that, your employer, not you, but your employer is the one who dictates what time you have to get up each morning, what you're going to wear that day, how you are allowed to talk when you're on the job, when you get to have lunch, when you're allowed to go home, when you're allowed to take some personal time off, and under what circumstances, and worst of all, how much money you are allowed to make, which therefore determines what kind of lifestyle you are allowed to live. Well, guess what? When you retire, all of that control that is being lorded over you, it's just all gone. It's just really all gone. And furthermore, you gain 10 to 12 hours a day of personal time that used to be devoted to someone else other than yourself. getting 12 hours a day returned back to you is absolutely huge. I want you to know that it really is absolutely huge. You now have the time, excuse me, to do all of the things that you used to dream about doing when you were working, but you couldn't do because you didn't have the time. Now, 24 hours a day actually feels like 24 hours a day because all 24 hours belongs to you. So those are some of the reasons that I like not having to work any longer. My only regret about retirement is that I didn't do it sooner. As I mentioned earlier, I've been retired for 3 years and 9 months, and it has been 3 years and 9 months of happiness, stress-filled living, and fun-filled days. In fact, if I had known how great and inexpensive that retirement life really is, I would have pulled the trigger 3 or 4 years sooner than I did. So what's a person to do? Well, one way or another, you have to start working on your escape plan. If you've had enough and you want to be able to live a life without having to work anymore, you have to start working on your own personal escape plan. And the sooner you do that, the better. Because getting out of the workforce is not going to happen all by itself. And you have to do that. And the last thing that you want to do is to stay on the workforce too long or too late. You've just got to take matters into your own hands and find your way out. Now that I'm retired and I'm no longer in the workforce having to work in order to make ends meet, I enjoy living a life that is much easier than it used to be. Now, I'm perfectly content to be closer to home most of the time. I enjoy spending time with my family, in my garden, on my homestead, with my animals. Sometimes I like my animals more than I used to enjoy the people on the job. Don't tell anybody that I said that. I like cooking my own meals at home, and I like working out in my own home gym. I enjoy sitting on the front porch in the morning and drinking coffee and having a slow morning with my wife each day. I'm now living a simple lifestyle, and it's a far cry from the pressure cooker that I used to be in. So that is why I like not having to work any longer. So what do you think? What do you think about working versus non-working? Have you had enough? If you have, leave me a comment down below. Are you burned out? Are you ready for a new chapter in your life? Well, leave me a comment down below because other people will read your comments and they will be encouraged by what you've got to say. And by the way, you should be reading the comment section yourself, and I'll tell you why. There's gold in there. There really is. I'm not the only one who's got something to say, and my perspective on retirement life is not the only one. Sometimes people put comments in the comment section, and I'm just blown away because there really is just pure gold in there. Well, that's all for now. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please like and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button that you'll find down below. I'm Ronnie. Take care, and we'll see you next time.